The founder of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner, for me is, I don't know about his faith, but I have been following his philosophy towards business for a while. And his philosophy is anchored on leading with compassion. And for a Silicon Valley giant like him to say that he has hung his hat on this principle of leading with compassion, to the point where the outcome was that he built such a great company and sold it for $26 billion to Microsoft, which, in my view, by all worldly standards, is a terrific success.
Yeah.
But at the core of his philosophy wasn't so much about the 26 billion. His philosophy was more about, how do I put myself in the shoes of my employees? How do I put myself in the shoes of my clients? How do I put myself in the shoes of opposing counsel? How do I put myself in the shoes of the opposing party? So we are inherently about asking, seeking, and knocking for our sake. But when we shift asking, seeking, and knocking to the point where we are asking, seeking, and knocking for others, then we are living true to the Matthew 7:12, that we are doing to others what we would love to be done to ourselves. So compassion and empathy in the legal profession is not being dogmatic about the outcome, but how you have handled the other person, how you've handled the client of opposing counsel, how you have handled your own colleagues in the firm who are who have messed up and are supposed to be fired. And you know, Jeff does not encourage a culture that is low standard.
Right.
He's about high standard, high compassion. Mm-hmm. And Matthews, that's how I would love to. That's a culture that I'd love to build, where we have great compassion, but also high performance standards. And one of the things that happened, which really blew my mind away, was at a certain season we went through a rough patch, and we'd laid off about 12 of our colleagues. And
how many people did you have at the time?
At the time, we were about 40.
Okay.
So this is about 30% of our staff.
Wow.
And out of the 12, one filed a suit, which we later settled. But the other 11, 6 months down the road, I was in my office, just minding my own business, doing my work. Then one of our old former colleagues came and started talking to me about stuff that I didn't think was very relevant. Just started talking to me about things that were up in the air. So I thought, okay. And then she finished and left. And then I thought, oh, okay, that was weird. But it was nice to see her. So shortly, the admin lady comes to my office and tells me, we'd like you to come to the balcony. So I tell her, okay, I'm sure. I concluded it must be someone's birthday. We are cutting a cake. So let's do this. So I get to the balcony and I see almost 45 of our former colleagues. They shouted surprise. I was shocked to see people I had not seen.
Former colleagues, people
people who had been
laid off. Shouted surprise.
Surprise, they'd come with cake, they'd come with
Why?
drinks, they'd come with they'd come with wine, they'd come with gifts.
What?
You know, they knew I love paintings and art, and they'd come with a painting. They came with they had collected all, you know, some money as a gift to me. I thought, wow.
Why? Why?
They said they'd come to say thank you. And one of them, we had just fired her 2 months before.
And she came back 2 months
And
later.
she was part of the group.
So they came to say thank you. I mean, what did any of them give a testimony? Or
Oh, they all spoke. They all spoke. Some of them cried. They're saying, you know, the things, how we treated them when they were at their worst.
Is there anything really specific? Because there could be people listening to this who are facing that challenge right now. I had a conversation recently with someone who's agonizing about one of these decisions.
Yeah,
what did you do that's a remarkable testimony.
I was also very touched. I was honestly touched because at that time, we were also going through our own issues, and I felt that they really had encouraged me. They'd picked me up. So one of them said that for 2 years, she was going for treatment, and we never made it an issue. And
So she had to take extra time off?
She was battling with cancer. So, and she's now, thankfully, she's fine now. But we supported her. We paid for her treatment. We, even beyond the cover we gave her, we paid for additional, we gave her additional support. And how she cried when she was saying that, you know. Other than the 45, almost 15 others sent short videos from wherever they were to say, you know, thank you. Because after the physical discussion, hugs and cries and tears, and they asked me to go to the boardroom. And then when I go to the boardroom, they switch on the telly, and now I see videos of others from all over saying, you know, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but, you know, we just want to say thank you. You have been a good leader. You have been, you've supported us, you've believed in us, and we'll make you proud, you know. So I felt very, very blessed.
So
They were saying that I was a blessing to them, but they were a blessing to me.
yeah, of course.
They reaffirmed my convictions about what I'm naturally inclined to do.
So for those that maybe aren't as naturally inclined or may not know how intuitively to do that, you're talking about high standards of excellence and high standards of compassion.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific words of advice or ways to think through this so that when you have to make hard decisions, you can still have people have that kind of life impact?
In fact, Jeff Weiner was not always compassionate. In fact, you know, not just him, but, you know, some of his former colleagues were admitting that he was a very intense leader. He was a very rough leader, very nothing about him was compassion. But then over time, he got this conviction and just switched like 360 degrees. And that became his philosophy that built that the giant of the company that it is today. I think in our own strength, we're not able to transform ourselves. I think the process of dying to self, I wouldn't even say that I'm the most compassionate leader. It's something that you aspire to, you strive every day, because our natural inclination is to think about ourselves and the business and the bottom line, and, you know, and our name, but not to put ourselves in the shoes of the next person. You know, one of the key cases that we study in law school, any lawyer will tell you that's one of the key cases that is studied. There's a judge called Lord Denning asks the question, who is your neighbor? Because there was a situation where some poisonous substance strayed into the compound of another of a neighbor from one land to the next. And so the key question that Lord Denning, who is a British judge, was asking is the concept of who is your neighbor. And he reflected on the Bible and said he talked about the question of, Jesus talked about the question of who your neighbor is. And in the Bible, the question of who is a good neighbor is captured in the story of the Good Samaritan. All the people who you would have thought should be a good neighbor were not a good neighbor, but the Samaritan was a good neighbor. So I have come to conclude that in our own strength, we are not good neighbors. I put myself first. Yeah. So it has to be a journey of introspection, and it has to be a journey of all children generally. Children, your children, my children, when they were much younger, my 5-year-old. Part of what defines childishness is looking out for yourself and not being considerate about the other person. And so part of maturity in our faith is to be more considerate about others. So having the humility to say that I didn't do as well today, I can do better tomorrow. So first deciding that this is the path that you want to follow, that you want to make the work environment an awesome place for your team, and to shock your colleagues by the quality of the work that you do and the quality of the people that you are, and to shock your clients by the quality of the work that you do and the quality of the people that you are, then that is what makes us better. It's not something that you perfect today. It's a journey. It's a continuous journey. You have to
you're
decide.
Not offering any shortcuts here. This is deep heart work.
Yeah, it is work. It is work because growing from being a child to an adult who is responsible. Responsible adult means that you are thinking about others. Yeah. You are thinking about not just yourself, but you're thinking about the people who are in your care. So I don't have any quick fixes. I think it's a continuous journey, and I think being exposed to the leading of the Holy Spirit helps a lot. I think you become more like the people that you hang around. So if you hang around the Holy Spirit more, you become less and less of ourselves and more like Him. I'm sure you know a number of married couples who over time look like each other. They speak the same because they hang out a lot. And my dad used to tell me, I can tell the kind of person you are by the people, the friends that you hang out with. So I think the Holy Spirit for me is spending time with God, spending time with folks who teach you better. And if you see someone who, just 2 Sundays ago, I was driving out of my home with my family going to church, and I see this Indian family picking litter. I could tell that they didn't have to, but they were, going around the neighborhood, cleaning litter, cleaning the place and keeping the place clean. So I thought, wow, that's a very good model. Mm-hmm. I was convicted because I was exposed to people who were doing better than me in terms of thinking about others.